You're listening to Prosper in the Kingdom, the podcast where faith meets practical strategies to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Join hosts John Cleaver and Wendy Lee as they share insights to equip you in your journey toward abundance, spiritually, financially, and beyond. Just a reminder, every situation is unique. The content of this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as specific financial or medical advice.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Prosper in the Kingdom. I'm your host, John C., with the ever-amazing Wendy Lee. Wendy, how are you doing today?
Hey, good. Happy to be
Awesome.
here. Happy Wednesday.
Love it, love it. Yeah, it's Wednesday. I can't believe we're already in June. This is like cray-cray. I was talking to
Your
somebody
birthday
yesterday.
month.
It is 56, 57.
Ouch.
Just kidding. I'm kidding. Hey, I got to keep you grounded, right? I got to keep you grounded. I know. So I'm probably going to get a lot of hate texts for that one. So it was a joke and I'm kidding. But anyway, you look amazing. And I know it's a big birthday for you. So that'll be fun coming up here pretty quick. But today we're not talking about birthdays. We are talking about this financial journey we're calling the 3M framework, teaching you how to make, manage, and multiply your money, and not just talking about retirement, but wealth from a Christian perspective, right? Following the life instruction book, AKA the Holy Bible, and what it says about money, both Old and New Testament. And today we're going to talk about the most financially dangerous habit that no one is talking about, right? And, a lot of people think, oh my gosh, what is this? So write down, if you're listening, turn up your volume a little bit more if you're on a podcast. But what is the most dangerous financial habit that no one's talking about? Well, it's not about inflation. It's not about debt. And a lot of people are like, what? It isn't taxes, market crash, or even lack of income. And I think we've, hit that hammer or nail several times about we know how to make money. But the most dangerous habit, the most dangerous financial habit in America is simply accepting, normal, and I'm using air quotes if you're listening to this on the podcast, without ever questioning where it leads, right? Accepting that normal without ever questioning where it leads. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, right? So we're tackling a problem that affects every one of us, right? Everyone listening. Most people don't intentionally choose their financial life. They inherit it. They inherited their beliefs about money, about spending, about assumptions about, what is success, right? Success to you may be different than your neighbor or whatever the case may be. And the problem is that normal and wise are not necessarily the same thing. And that's what we're trying to teach you about being good stewards. So if you've ever felt like you're working hard, but not getting ahead financially, this conversation is for you. So kick us off, Wendy.
Yeah. I love that. It's not normal and wise are not the same thing. I mean, wise is set apart, and it's so easy to fall into the trap of doing what everyone else does, and there's things when it comes to money that we practice that in our daily lives just because we're so used to seeing it. Right.
Yep.
We've become so accustomed to certain things that we no longer notice how bad it might be. Right. It's kind of like when you hang around. I tell my kids all the time, like, who you hang around makes such a difference in who you are in life. I was a goody two shoes. And then in 8th grade, I got in the wrong crowd and I started doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. Right.
That explains it. I was going to say,
But I mean, I see it with adults and we talk about that, right? I think you even mentioned that a few episodes ago, like the 5 people you hang around with the most, right? But we're seeing social media and all this, and it's like, think about it. Everyone around you has a car payment. That feels normal.
Yeah.
Everyone is stressed about money, and that feels normal.
Yep.
Everyone has credit card debt, student loan debt, living month to month, right? Not prepared for retirement. And you're like, oh, it's all right. We're all in the same boat. It feels normal. And so that normal, that common, that what you see everywhere and wisdom are not the same. And we're called to be wise. And when we look at the word of God, it is very clear that we need wisdom when it comes to money. And so when people struggle financially, right, they're looking for some villain, right? Like you mentioned.
Blame. Yes.
Yeah. Inflation, blame it on the government, right? It's the gas prices, all that, right? And which does create challenges. But the real enemy here is just accepting what has become the status quo, the American dream, right? Without ever questioning whether normal is actually producing the life that you want.
No, and that's the thing, because it becomes normal, when you kind of look around today, I mean, it becomes so normal, people even stop questioning it, right? Well, everybody has that. It's just, it's normal, right? And that's the scary part, but because, these behaviors, once they're ingrained, it's so common that it almost becomes invisible. People just don't recognize it. Every once in a while, somebody will kind of poke their head up and then life happens. But, it's one of those challenges that really kind of traps people, right? And there are others, but, it's one of those things that the trap of the financial rules. And one thing I've noticed over the year that people love simple answers, right? It's just, cut to the chase, just tell me. So, always pay cash, right? You're going to hear this from different, podcast, radio, whatever. Always pays cash, never buy debt, or never use debt. Buy a house, don't buy a house, invest here, avoid that. I mean, there's so much noise and so much, I'll call it what it is, crap out there, right? That it becomes so confusing that people just shut down. It becomes analysis paralysis, and they just like, okay, whatever. And they become tone deaf to it. It's that old joke, when you have kids as parents, the kids, you just kind of tune them out. You don't even hear them. But the problem is that stewardship requires more than rules, right? It requires that wisdom. We've talked about that, like, don't use debt, always pay cash. Well, that's not real, right? That's not reality. So that's where the wisdom comes in. A family waiting until they have a few, or until they have hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash before buying a home. Hello, that's probably never going to happen for the vast majority of people out there. A business owner may wisely finance equipment that helps his revenue grow, right? An investor may strategically use leverage to acquire appreciating assets, right? Robert Kiyosaki, I'm a huge fan, right? So is the decision wise? Wendy, I know you've heard me say this 1,000 times, but we talk about this with our clients. Is the decision you're making, the financial decision, right? Is the decision moving me closer to or further away from my financial goals? And you've got to answer that. And the question changes everything. It's a complete mindset shift.
Yeah.
Because it's the whole needs versus wants, things like that. And that question again changes everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And I now hear you in my head all the time. Is this moving me closer to or further away? And I mean, that's a question that we should ask, that should be in our heads, and instead of, just this one size fits all approach of financial advice and all this list of rules and, listen, one guy online says, like you said, don't buy a house, never buy a house, use your money, use your leverage to finance an investment. And then other people are like, a house is your greatest asset. Make sure you buy a house, right? We can be so distracted, so confused by what everyone else says and what everyone else does. But we have to learn how to think through those financial decisions for ourselves.
Well, and that's key. If I can just interject, I mean, you've got to be you're on your own journey, people, right? And you've got to take ownership and accountability of that journey. But going back to what you were saying about, don't buy a house, a lot of Gen Zs are hearing this. Oh, why would you ever buy a house? Just rent. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Whether you're renting or whether you're buying a house, you are paying a mortgage. But when you buy the house, you get all the benefit for it. So don't say I can't do it or whatever. Just how can I do it? How can I make this happen? Because that's one of the biggest assets you're ever going to have is real estate. So I just want to throw that in there.
Yeah. Real quick, Luke 14:28 says, "For which of you desiring to build a tower does not first sit down and count the cost?"
Mm-hmm.
And in here, he's not saying don't build a tower, right? He's saying you have to look at what it takes to build it. You have to be wise and count the costs, right? And cost isn't a bad thing, right? But you've got to figure out what is the end result, right? Like thinking through things. And that's where we, if you're listening to this, go back and search Money Team on our podcast channel or YouTube channel. And we talk about building a money team. I think that's part of stewardship, is surrounding yourself with people that have expertise in areas you don't, and building that money team, I think, is so important.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So back over to you.
All right. So, excuse me. So you look at, the big piece of the conversation, right? Most people think their financial freedom is about having more money. And it's really about having more options. Okay. It's about having the ability to make decisions from a position of purpose instead of pressure. Most of us, we look at this as we treat our financial lives as reactionary. Rarely does anybody budget. And if they do budget, they do it incorrectly, right? It's not proactive, it's reactive. Well, I spent more money. I kept track of what I spent, but it's already gone, that kind of thing. So everything we do is in a reactionary mode. But think how many decisions are made every day because of the pressure that's put on you financially, right? Pressure from bills. You lose your job or whatever, the bills keep coming in. You get hurt, the bills keep coming in. Pressure from debt. Spending that money before you already have it. That's what debt is, folks. And pressure from the stress that creates, right? And that creates tension in the household. Number one cause for divorce in, Christian homes as well as secular homes, money. Okay. So, and it's because of all this and pressure from feeling behind, man, I'm looking at where should I be in my 401k? Where should I be in my wealth growth? Where should I be in my retirement planning? Where should I be compared to my age peers, as far as stuff, right? And we get so caught up in all this minutia, and it's just creates this high pressure. And this is not a situation where pressure creates diamonds. Pressure creates breakage in this point. And I want you to take a second and just think about this. Think about your bills, think about the debts, think about all the things that are coming in, the monthly payments that are hitting you every month. Imagine what it would feel like to make decisions from a position of purpose instead. Okay. Imagine having plenty of margin. Okay. Imagine having flexibility to do things, right? Imagine helping your children, supporting causes that you care, pursuing opportunities without immediately saying to yourself, can I afford it?
Yeah.
Financial freedom isn't about becoming rich. It's about becoming a better steward. And that's the whole 3M philosophy in the Christian wealth revolution.
Yeah. And there's so many people, I hear all the time, moms that are posting online about business opportunities saying, I used to stress about paying for groceries. Like I had to check my bank account before I went grocery shopping or at the checkout line or use a calculator. I've been there, use the calculator at the grocery store, and when you have financial freedom, to me, and being able to build with purpose is like, I think all of us have a calling outside of ourselves, like bigger than us.
Oh yeah.
Bigger than just our families,
Definitely.
right? And two resources that are always needed to expand reach beyond yourself is time and money, right? And so many people have no margin in either of those, and, we were talking to somebody the other day that wanted to help someone who was in a tight financial spot, some family drama going on. And instead of, that person be able to hand them a check, they're like, let's do a little fundraiser for that person, right? Like imagine being able to just write the check. Imagine being able to meet a need that you see and just fill it. Like to me, that is so powerful. And, years ago, I volunteered for an organization and we went and we delivered a washer and dryer to a family who had foster kids, and they had no washer and dryer. And they were always, going and paying to do their laundry out. And they had 6 kids that they brought in foster care. And we had one single family that bought that washer and dryer for us to deliver. And I thought that was, I remember when that happened, I thought, man, I want to be in that position to be able to see a need and just say, I got it, And so that's what purpose over pressure is. And Proverbs 21:5 says, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance. The plans of the diligent. So we've got to be diligent. Putting your head in the sand about your finances and never looking at it and never facing it and never making a plan is not you being diligent. Right? And then the second half of that verse says, everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. And we've talked about that a few episodes ago, that get rich quick, that running for, I just want to make money. And that mindset, if I could just take care of me, if I just made this much amount of money. And again, that goes back to that's selfish. So having, that intentionality and not just going with the flow and doing what everyone else does can change everything for us. So.
Yeah. And that's really, what the Christian wealth revolution is all about. We started talking about that, and that phrase kind of came up again and again on what we're trying to do with Prosper in the Kingdom. And that's the Christian wealth revolution, right? It's like, hey, join us on this journey of becoming financially free from a Christian perspective, a biblical perspective, right? And it's not about chasing money. It's about becoming intentional. It's about replacing financial autopilot with the normal things that everybody does with stewardship, right? It's about moving from consumer to steward, from reactive to intentional or proactive, right? From just drifting and floating around on your financial journey in your life and directing it, becoming intentional, right? And, most people spend their time planning, more time planning a vacation than they actually do their financial future. And that's I'm not condemning anybody there, but that's the reality. That's what's going on there. I mean, think about your own journey financially and think about the last time you took a vacation with the family, right? How much time did you spend on that planning that vacation as opposed to planning out your financial future, right? And the good news is, the small decisions made consistently completely change the trajectory. At least it can, right? But again, you've got to make the decision. You've got to put a plan in place, and you've got to start taking action on it. But, that trajectory, especially the longer you have, you talked about money and time, right? The longer time you have, the easier this becomes to course correct. The crowd determines what is common, right? The crowd does not determine what is wise. I think of the lemur, right? When I was a kid and I learned about lemurs, was it lemurs? I think whatever the ones that jump off the cliff together, right? One goes off, the next one goes off, the next thing you know, they're all jumping off, and it's crazy. But it's one of those things that following the crowd is not a good thing. It may feel safe, right? Because there's safety in numbers, but bad decisions made by all are still not good decisions, right? Normal and wise are not always the same thing, is what I'm trying to say here. We said it earlier, normal and biblical are not always the same thing. As a matter of fact, in the worldly view, it's typically not the same thing. And that's why we're challenging people to think different. That's what the Christian wealth revolution is all about, right? Thinking differently and deciding to step back from what the masses are doing and looking at it differently and charting your own road, right? So the challenge is this, and I'm going to close with this, right? Before you make your next financial decision, ask yourself that one question. Is this decision moving me closer to or further away from the financial future I'm trying to create? And then be honest with yourself, right? Don't sell yourself. Don't spin it. Just be honest, boom. And typically your first response is your best response, right? Because your future is not going to be built by one massive decision. It's built by hundreds of these small decisions along the road, right? Reinforcing normal or challenging it. That's what you've got to really determine, right? Am I going to reinforce what everybody else is doing, or am I going to challenge it and really ask the question, is this the right choice for me? Okay. The Christian wealth revolution begins the moment you stop accepting normal as the standard and start taking ownership of where your life is headed from a financial standpoint. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't merely to accumulate wealth. We've talked about that numerous times, right? The goal is to build a life where you have the freedom to make decisions from a position of purpose instead of a position of pressure, that reactionary, well, I got to do it, right? So that's your call into action, right? Really start assessing it. If you need help on that, reach out to us. Get your free money, Safe Money Roadmap. Just go to safemoneyroadmap.com. We'll put the link in the show notes as well. And we've created a new community on Facebook. We'd love you to join us there. We're going to have additional tips and tips. It's free. It doesn't cost anything to join. You can sit and you're going to learn a little bit more. We put articles in there and stuff like that. Basically, information you can use on your financial journey to help you get there, right? To help you get there at your own pace, on your own budget, things like that. We'll put those links in the show notes as well. And as always, don't forget to follow us and show a little love. Give us that like, subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. If you're listening to us on one of the podcast platforms, give us a 5-star review and make sure you're following us as well. That helps all the algorithms, kind of bumps us up in the search engines. So what that does, it's a simple act by you, but it really helps us reach more people with this information on how to get help. So again, if you found value in it, like, subscribe, share with somebody who you think may be able to use this information as well. And again, until next time, keep making, keep managing, keep multiplying that 3M framework, and, go out and take ownership and charge of your financial journey. Again, thanks everybody. We hope you had a great episode with us. We know we enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week on another Prosper in the Kingdom.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Prosper in the Kingdom. If this episode added value to your day, be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with someone who could use the encouragement. For more resources, head to prosperinthekingdom.com. Let's continue building lives of purpose and abundance, one step at a time.